The FBI is looking for information on its newest addition to their top 10 most wanted fugitive list, Michael James Pratt. The Bureau is offering a $100,000 reward for information leading to his whereabouts.
Michael James Pratt is the co-owner of a San Diego-based pornography website. The Justice Department charged him with sex trafficking of a minor, and producing child pornography, as well as fraud and coercion. He allegedly helped recruit young women and girls by offering $3,000 to $5,000 for one-day adult video shoots. The FBI accuses him and others involved of locking women in rooms and forcing them into lewd acts. Pratt's co-owner Matthew Isaac Wolf faced trial in July. He pleaded guilty to sex trafficking and other offenses. Authorities are asking anyone with information to reach out by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit a tip online at tips.fbi.gov.
A candidate for the mayor of Los Angeles received a scholarship that is critical to federal prosecutors in a bribery case. The case involves trading favors in exchange for more federal funding.
Representative Karen Bass, the leading contender in the race for mayor of Los Angeles, received university scholarship money that has been linked to a bribery case. The Los Angeles Times reported that she is one of two influential politicians who received full tuition scholarships valued at nearly $100,000 from the University of Southern California's, or USC's, social work program. Federal prosecutors have not indicated Bass is under criminal investigation. Prosecutors have declared that Bass's scholarship and her dealings with USC are critical to their bribery case, as well as their broader portrayal of corruption in the university's social work program. The other recipient of the scholarship is the son of L.A. politician Mark Ridley Thomas. Ridley Thomas was indicted in the case along with Marilyn Flynn, the former dean of the University of Southern California's social work program. The prosecutor's filing states that by awarding Bass free tuition in 2011, Flynn hoped to obtain the Congresswoman's assistance in passing legislation. According to prosecutors, Bass sponsored a bill in Congress that would have expanded USC's and other private universities' access to federal funding for social work, quote, just as defendant Flynn wanted. The revelation hits as Bass is heading into the final weeks of her campaign for mayor of Los Angeles with Rick Caruso. Bill Thomas, NTD News, Los Angeles.
As California students head back to school this year, they may encounter books and materials promoting transgenderism. It will be available for children as young as preschool and kindergarten.
The California Department of Education's recommended reading list includes a section called Gender/Sexuality. On that list, dozens of books on LGBT topics, transgenderism, and gender ideology are promoted for use in classrooms. Some of the books in the collection include Julian is a Mermaid, Love is Love, a story about gay relationships aimed at first graders, and I'm Not a Girl, a transgender story also aimed at first graders. In a statement to the Epoch Times, Betsy McCaughey, an author and former New York lieutenant governor, said these books don't belong in our elementary schools. Gender dysphoria is an extremely rare affliction. Those who have it deserve our respect and sympathy, but telling all children about it is unnecessary, confusing to them, and hurtful. According to a June 2022 study by UCLA's Williams Institute, about 0.6% of the U.S. population over age 13, or about 1.6 million people, identify as transgender. A growing number of individuals known as detransitioners are leaving the transgender movement, often regretting permanent harm done to their bodies.
Despite more spending on supportive housing for the homeless, the number of homeless in Los Angeles continues to rise.
The number of homeless individuals in Los Angeles County rose 4.1% since 2020, according to the Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority. That's counting over 69,000 homeless countywide and 42,000 in the city of Los Angeles. The increase in homelessness comes as both the city and state have spent billions of dollars on solving the issue. According to the previous count in 2020, the county's homeless population increased by 12.7% over the previous year. The city's homeless population increased by 14.2%. That comes after Angelenos voted for Proposition HHH in 2016, a $1.2 billion bond to create 10,000 permanent supportive housing units. Since the proposition has passed, the city has created just over 1,100 units, or 14% of what was promised. The most recent project is Project Homekey, in which Governor Gavin Newsom announced almost $700 million to homeless projects in the state. $277 million went to Los Angeles. Assembly Republican leader James Gallagher said Project Homekey is, quote, akin to putting a Band-Aid on a severed limb.
California's last nuclear power plant has gained a new lease on life. That's after the governor signed a bill last week to continue funding the plant.
With Governor Gavin Newsom's signature on Senate Bill 846 last week, the state legislature has agreed to spend $1.4 billion to keep California's last nuclear power plant open. The funds will help reverse plans to close Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant by 2025. The extension will allow the operation of the plant until at least 2030. Democratic Senator Bill Todd, who introduced the bill, said that this bill is an essential step toward preventing rolling blackouts and increased electricity prices. The operator of the plant, PG&E, said that the company remains committed to the state's clean energy plans while safely operating the plant. The decision to keep Diablo Canyon open is spurred by California's energy shortage. Over the Labor Day weekend, California was hit by a prolonged heat wave. Newsom declared a state of emergency on the last day of August and asked residents to conserve energy. The legislation earned overwhelming bipartisan approval in both houses.
More marijuana-related protection may be coming to the state. The governor now has a choice to sign marijuana-related legislation that will make it so employers could not take actions against workers for consuming the drug outside of work.
A bill that makes it illegal for employers to discriminate against people who use marijuana while away from work awaits Governor Gavin Newsom's signature by the end of September. The California Cannabis Industry Association told the Epoch Times the bill still allows employers to use tests to determine whether someone is under the influence of cannabis while actively on the job. The California Chamber of Commerce said, according to bill analysis, California employers may face liability when they take legitimate disciplinary measures against their employees. Citizens Against Legalizing Marijuana, an organization working to oppose the legalization of marijuana in California and other states, agreed with the chamber and called the bill, quote, unsafe.
While most people who own a car do so just for transportation, a select few have another passion. NTD's Jackie Reels spoke to a car collector who has a flair for American tradition and memorabilia.
For some people, being a collector is more than just a hobby. It's a passion that takes time, energy, and commitment. We visited with Kastner's Corner Garage to find out more about what it takes to become a collector.
Robert Kastner, the owner of the garage, has been collecting classic cars for about 20 years. His collection is not just limited to cars, but also American memorabilia. He fell in love with the cars when they were far out of his league.
I would hang out the local A&W root beer stands back in the 60s, and I would watch the cruisers come in and out, and I would fall in love with all of them. At that time, of course, I worked at a car wash for 70 cents an hour, and I couldn't afford any of them, and now I can.
Kastner's collection is more than just classics. He owns a Rolls Royce that was once property of two former household names in rock and roll.
Well, it belonged to Phil Spector, and it was given to him by one of the Beatles, John Lennon, and that's the history that I know about it.
To find such unique pieces, he's had to travel all across the country.
I've gone to New York, I've gone to all the way up and down the East Coast, all the way down to Mississippi, and collecting mostly the lollipop signs that you see here with a trailer behind my truck. And on the way I stop and find other treasures.
And as Kastner's collection grew, so did his need for real estate.
I decided to get a larger property because I wanted more cars. and I had a garage at home that would not facilitate more than two. I purchased this property, and it was actually a scrapyard, a car scrapyard, and I renovated it into what I have today.
Despite the pristine state of the cars, he said it's not as expensive as one may think.
Yes, it is. If you do not plan on driving it more than a couple hundred miles a year, it's very affordable. I have every one of my cars are insured. There's collector car insurance companies that I use.
Kastner is looking forward to meeting new car collecting enthusiasts.
I would say if you're anywhere near Pomona, California, please go to the Pomona Swap Meet. That's my mall. I love that place. And they have any car, any part, pretty much anything you want as far as collectible.
As for his own cars, he just plans to keep on going.
Of course. It never ends.
From vintage automobiles to legendary memorabilia, Kastner's Corner Garage is a trip down memory lane. Jackie Rios, NTD News, California.